All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to have you here. So without further ado, let's get started. So you're all here today because you've heard a thing or two about shared inboxes, and that's exactly what we're going to be covering today. Now, the first thing that we'll be looking at is the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to shared emails. Then we'll look at how companies are actually managing their shared emails today. And then lastly, we'll finish with how you can actually unlock your team's productivity by using shared inbox solutions like Front. Now, I like to keep my webinars interactive, so if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat box, and I will take a look and answer them at the end of the presentation. So please feel free to do that throughout the presentation. And so who am I? My name is Anderson, and I'll be your guide today through today's webinar. I'm proud to be Front's very first customer success manager, and I've worked with over 1,400 of our companies, our customers, in implementing their instance of Front. Now, what I love the most about my job is that I get to help companies go from these very messy inboxes that they have set up to complete and total success and transparency with Front. So by the end of the webinar, my hope is that you have learned something new about shared inboxes and really want to start implementing them for your team. Now, we're all here to talk about shared inboxes, but what is it? Now, what most people think about when they hear shared inboxes is Google Groups, where a conversation is distributed to everyone within that group, or shared email accounts, where everyone shares a single login. But all of these are more like shared email accounts rather than a shared inbox. And there's a big difference between the two. A shared inbox is a mailbox that lets many people read and reply to emails sent to their team in an organized way. Keyword here is organized. Now, Front is an expert on shared inboxes because we're the first company to build it for teams, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Now, circling back to Google Groups and shared email accounts, some of you are probably managing communications this way, and maybe this is working out all right for you, but having company email addresses like hello@ and info@ give people an easy way to contact your company, which is great. And it can certainly help send your customer messages to the right department or the right people. But since you're here listening to the webinar, you're probably looking for that extra something that you're not getting with Google Groups and with these shared email accounts. Now, out of all the companies that joined Front, about 92% of them are looking for that something else. Now, as your company continues to grow, or maybe you're already seeing some of this in your organization today, it becomes problematic to manage your communication with just a shared email account. And here I've highlighted some of the key challenges faced with those. First one is missed emails. With the volume of emails you need to take care of and really no clear ownership, it's not surprising that emails will oftentimes fall through the cracks, disappearing into what I like to call the inbox abyss, where it never gets answered or never gets found ever again. Now, more annoyingly, we have the duplicate responses. You reply to a customer's email, and then seconds later, your coworker replies to the exact same email. Now, this can be extremely frustrating and makes you, and more importantly, your company look disorganized. And then finally, we have what I call the messy handoff. You forward an email to a coworker, but then do they CC or BCC or forward all the replies back to you? It's not surprising things get lost because these emails are notorious for being long and super messy. And if those weren't problems enough, are your sales and support teams also struggling to keep up with your customers when they reach out to you across other channels like Facebook, Twitter, text, phone, and chat? It's important to be where your customers are. So it's only a matter of time before all businesses need some type of platform to consolidate all of their communication. And on a more personal note, the scary thing for us in customer success and sales is that people expect a faster response on social media or web chat than they do through email or phone calls. And so that social expectation can only be met by having some kind of organized game plan. So with all of that, you're probably wondering now, if things can get this messy, how are companies managing their communications today? So you've got the shared email accounts that I mentioned before, where teams respond on a first come, first served basis using either a distribution list or shared login. Then you have the customer support teams who use traditional support help desk solutions that assign ticket numbers to messages to keep things organized in that way. And then for social media, text, and these other channels, they might use a specialized tool that aggregates those messages to make it easier to respond. But even with all of this, teams are still struggling, and that's because these tools only help them do a specific task. They're not focused on solving the core problems. Now, our approach at Front is to focus on team productivity first. We've spent a lot of time thinking about what makes great teams productive and built those into the core of our product. And so when I think about productivity, I think of it as a balance between the right processes in place and having a product that is malleable enough to fit my team's process and what that requires. And from a survey from our customers, here are some of the common themes we've heard from them that have been instrumental in their team's ability to be as productive as possible. First, we have clear lines of ownership, or having clear lines of ownership, rather. When every person on the team knows exactly what they need to do and what their teammates are in charge of, you then save so much time, but more importantly, can work efficiently. Then we have collaboration, whether it's for input or advice or to help each other out when work gets tough or volume of messages or emails becomes too much to handle. Teammates are an amazing resource to leverage. Keeping that culture for open communication between teammates and departments is imperative to the productivity and success of really any team. Now, productive teams also actively look for ways to be more efficient by finding patterns and or creating shortcuts that they're not doing, so they're not doing the same thing over and over again. And lastly, working off of a centralized system is also key. Managing work in one place is very different than managing work across 10 different ones, making it easier for you to be more focused. And then in cases where you do have to rely on multiple tools to do your job, having that centralized platform be connected to each other so that you can access and update your data from one centralized place also helps improve the quality of the data that you're using. So keeping all of this in mind, we built Front. So everyone knows how email works. In Front, you can see and respond to messages just like any traditional email. But then you also have your team emails like hello at or support at all here as well. Nice, organized, and all in plain view. With Front, you can also pull in messages from Twitter, Facebook, and even Twilio texts and web chats. And above that, that's what I like to call the command center. Here you can add your private email addresses. So again, you further centralize your workspace and you don't need to have 10 additional screens open to do your job. And all of this is also available on your mobile phone, so letting you be able to work from anywhere, even on the go. So now let me show you how other companies are using Front to be more productive. I mentioned earlier that not knowing who's responsible for getting back to a customer or email is a major productivity killer. So one of our customers, a startup fund that we went through, Y Combinator, used to manage about 20 different shared email addresses using Google Groups. It would sometimes take a week to respond to an email because they weren't sure who was actually in charge of answering that email. So switching to Front, they were able to easily decide who takes the next step by using our assign feature. They could also then automate the assignments using our automation features. And so they're spending less time actually doing the administrative work and more time actually getting back to the customer. Now, what's more exciting is that all of these changes, Front has helped the Y Combinator team increase their response rate to their customers about 7 times faster than they were compared to when they were using Google Groups. Now, while clear ownership is important for tackling things together to get things done faster is super important as well. People use Slack and Google Chat to talk to each other throughout the day, right? They work just like real life conversations, like, hey, how's it going? I need some help, what's for lunch? So we sort of took the same concept of that real-timeness and applied it and brought it to Front where you're working on your emails. you can mention a teammate just below the email itself, so you're not CCing or BCCing them, creating more email clutter between the both of you. Instead, you're simply looping them into the conversation through our internal chat function, and the conversations you have through @mentions and comments are invisible to the customer, so you can talk freely about the situation like you would through Slack or GChat. Now, this commenting feature is powerful because it not only records the conversation within the email, but it really allows you to have that back and forth in real time. So if you ever need to go back and understand why you sent an email or why something was done the way it was, you can now reflect and look back at those internal comments as well. So I'm going to take a short pause here. I want to remind everyone that, if you have any questions about Front or about shared inbox and how we approach that here at Front, please use the chat box to ask them, and I will get back to you at the end of the presentation as well. So another thing that slows down work is when multiple people have to be, or they are involved in drafting, approving, and sending an email. Do you need to check a new teammate's work? Does your assistant write emails on your behalf? Does finance need to approve all of your quotes? A big team, global tech firm experienced this exact problem. They used to use Gmail to draft an email and then move it into a folder, hoping the right person would then see it, make the right changes, and then send it out. So with Front's shared draft feature, we've actually replaced that multi-step process that they've had so that they can share and collaborate with ease, getting higher quality messages out to their customers quicker. Now, when talking about productivity, shortcuts inevitably become a hot topic. And trust me, we are big fans of them here at Front. That's why we've built so many of them into our product. Just like this one that we're seeing here, canned responses. These canned responses are pre-written email templates you can pull up, so you don't have to write the same thing from scratch every single time. Now, another shortcut is setting up rules. Bellhops is a cool tech-based moving company, and when they switched from Zendesk to Front, they created 69 rules to route messages to the right people, notify the right groups of teammates, and organize texts coming from their numerous Twilio numbers. Now, for requests like to move things within 24 hours or to use a specific truck, messages are then automatically sent to Bellhop's priority inboxes. Now, as a result of this, they were then able to run their business 3 times faster. Now, I'd like to think that we've mastered our rules engine here at Front. After all, many of our workflows are supplemented with rules. And so here is an example of one of them that we use for our sales team, where when we make a comment, hashtag SMB on an email coming from any small, medium-sized business, it automatically assigns that to either Rachel or Ben on our sales team to follow up. But it also does it in a way that keeps it fair. So it round robins that request so that both of them get an equal number of leads. But even with these rules set up, it can then still be overwhelming when you have an increased volume of messages. And so that's sort of where it's really important that you're responding to the right emails first. And so with that, better prioritization. I think with better prioritization in mind, you really need to have cleaner inboxes to start with. Instead of retaining everything in your inbox, if there are emails that you can get back to later, you should be able to just snooze them. And that's what we've done within Front. Just like the snooze on your alarm clock, the email then reappears in your inbox for when you set it to, in this case, for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. This then helps you stay focused on your priority emails first and not get distracted and bogged down by all the other ones that are in there. As simple as the feature is, a majority of our existing customers use Snooze on a daily basis. After all, we are all trying to strive for that inbox zero all day, every day. Now, transitioning over to multi-channel support, it's very likely that many of you are using multiple channels to engage with your customers already. Cleaning Pros is a cleaning service company that uses text messaging, phone, and email to communicate with their customers. They used to use a lot of tools like Gmail, Hiver, Twilio, and social media, which would take several hours, over 2 to 3 weeks, to then onboard a new employee. So Cleaning Pros moved to Front because they actually wanted that single place where they can manage these tools in a central way. Every email, text, social message comes into the shared inbox in Front. And it's smart enough to know that when you respond out of Front, the messages then appear in the channel that the customer originally wrote out to you from. It's just like email, which everyone knows how to use. So cleaning pros now only has to spend 2 to 3 hours, not 2 to 3 weeks, training their new employees on all the technologies they're using today. Now I'm going to throw in a bonus tip here. You can add an individual inbox to Front, which you can then use to privately manage all your emails alongside all the conversations from your team inboxes. Then when I get an email that's meant for another team in my private inbox, which I often do, I can then easily drag and move those messages into the shared team inbox. That team can then figure out how to handle it. So it's really an awesome feature because it gets work in front of the right eyes. Now, our ultimate goal at Front is to help bring all of the work that you're doing into one place. But we know it's not always possible given teams use many specialized tools in addition to email. So the good news is that you can actually connect all of these tools with Front. And here's an example of what I mean. Salesforce is a tool that many sales teams are familiar with and use to track a host of things, including their contacts, opportunities, and such. With our integration with Salesforce, you can easily connect Salesforce with your backend, allowing for rules like when commenting #lead on a message, create a new lead automatically within Salesforce. Then with auto BCC and real-time updating, the teams can also see activity and leads in Salesforce without having to constantly switch back and forth between their email and with their Salesforce instance. And when it comes to leveraging data, the data within your own customer database is always going to be of better quality than really any other data source that you're leveraging. So with our custom plugin capabilities, you can actually leverage the important data you already have directly next to your email. It's really saved me personally a lot of time and helped me contextualize who I'm talking with in any message that I'm using. And so this is something that you can do as well. With Front's open API, your developer can customize Front for your workflows and tools. This way, all of your systems are always synced up and you don't need to manually type or copy or paste the same things across 5 different platforms. Plus, it's really not fun for anyone to do that. So to recap on some of the things that we've talked today. 1, shared emails like hello at, support at are necessary, but can get really messy if it's not managed well. Then we have multiple channel support for social, and chat can also be challenging, but not impossible to stay on top of by finding the right platform like Front that aims to solve the team's core productivity problems and helping them scale alongside their customers. Some core problems that Front helps solve are assigning ownership and accountability for every message that comes in, making it easier for teams to then work together without messy BCC clutter, giving teams the ability to share drafts and record collaboration history, and also Front's shortcuts, rules, and canned responses help automate current workflows and overall increases your team's efficiency wherever and whenever possible. As well as having all of your communication centrally managed in one place, your email, text, chat, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. And lastly, connecting your existing tools with Front to help keep everything in sync with each other and accessible. So there's really a lot of things that Front can do. So if you're interested in learning more in how we can help you and your team specifically, I'm happy to connect you with our team, or you can just reach out to us at team@frontapp.com. So now I'm going to take a pause here and take a look at all the questions that are coming in. If you have any questions, this is a perfect opportunity to ask them. So please do that in the chat box below. So we've had some questions here. Let me see. How long have you been on the market already? Well, we've been around for about 3 to 4 years now, and our customer base has grown pretty significantly. We're now almost at 1,800 customers. When I started, we were only about 1,400 just a year ago. So we've really expanded quite a bit. And we will be recording this, and you can get a recording of this after the webinar itself. So here we have a question. Can I set up multiple accounts of each type, like multiple SMS numbers for different teams. So yeah, Front is a platform that you can plug in really anything that you want. So if you have, info at, team at, support at, really, even though all of them do the same thing or could be implemented in the same way for your teams, you can sync all of them into Front. So if you have multiple SMS numbers, you can add those to Front. If you have multiple Twitter accounts that you're managing, you can add both of those to Front as well. Let me see. All right. So there are, here, let me see. Okay, here is another question. Does everyone on my team have access to every channel I connect? So quick answer is no, but I guess like to sort of dive into that a little bit more. Front is, as a collaborative platform that has multiple channels into it, Front has the flexibility to give your admins the ability to grant and provision access to specific inboxes. So if you have a sales team using Front and the only inboxes they need to take care of is sales at, then as an admin, you can grant those people access to just that specific inbox. And so it's really easy for then sort of more company-wide deployment, and then not also at the same time making everyone see everything that they don't need to see. So Front gives you that flexibility. And then when it comes to private inboxes, you can add those. And those private inboxes are private by default, but you also then have the ability to then take advantage of the collaboration feature. So if there is something that is in your private inbox and you've added it to Front, but then you need someone else on your team to chime in, you can mention them on that conversation, sharing that specific conversation with them and not your entire inbox. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to that as well. All right, here. Can I see messages that have been assigned to other people on my team, or do they disappear from my view? So that's a really great question. Messages, the way that Front is built out is we allow for messages to stay within a team inbox, but it sort of moves through different stages, but it's all still transparent. So if someone is working on something, we make it really clear for the team to know exactly who is assigned to this email. But because it's a team conversation, you can always look at the entire history as well as all of the messages and who they're assigned to. So that level of transparency is definitely there. We just sort of treat email like emails, less like tickets. All right. Do we have chat? So we don't, I guess I'll need some more context on this question. So we do support live chat. In Front, you can, in your settings, talk to us. So if you have any questions, you can always live chat with us. And we support several live chat partners, namely Smooch, Intercom, and there are several other ones that have, several other partners that have built chat integrations with Front as well. So the way those work is very similar to how email works. It comes into an inbox in Front, and then your team can then manage that alongside your emails. You can then use automation rules like SLA rules that will notify teammates because there is that social consciousness that people want to hear back from live chat quicker than they do through email. So building out automation rules and building out processes so teams are responding to live chat quicker than they are responding to emails coming from your support app channels. Okay, cool. So here we have a question. I'm using Google Groups now. I have 10 different groups. How do I move those into Front? That's a fantastic question. So the setup process in Front is actually very, very easy. So you just have to add it as an inbox. We then give you a email forwarding address, which you can then, with your IT manager or with whoever has admin access to those Google Groups, add that as a Google Group email address, and then all of those messages will now come into Front. So that's a great question. And then in response to Gmail syncs and integrations with Gmail, we can actually import all of your messages from Gmail as well as Office 365. So you don't actually lose any of your history when it comes through. Okay, let me see. All right, so here we have a question. Okay, here we have a question about some main differences between some of our competitors like Zendesk and Help Scout. And for those, I think the really interesting thing is a lot of people come to Front initially for support teams, and that's really great. We've built out a great support system within Front with all of our features as well. But the difference is that Zendesk Inbox is really only email. It's not multi-channel, and I think outside of that, then if you think about like as a company, you want to work together and have transparency, and also knowledge is not necessarily siloed within specific teams. It really is spread across a lot of different teams. So having a centralized solution like Front that allows you to actually collaborate and comment at everyone to then get back to the customer with the correct information, that I think is the sort of at the highest level, the main difference in how we philosophically approach doing support as well. Okay, so here we do have a question about, can I get my data from Magneto? So we don't have that as an out-of-the-box integration right now, but I guess letting everyone know here, sort of in our roadmap, we are partnering and we have a lot of things in the pipeline that we're working with a lot of partners to build out these kinds of integrations. So if you have integrations that you're very interested in, wanting us to work on, please send them over to team@frontapp.com so our partnerships manager can reach out to them as well. And if you have contacts at those places as well, please feel free to put us in touch with them. Obviously, with email being on a centralized platform, the more technologies we can integrate, the better your experience and the better your customer's experience will also be. Let's see here. So can Front App be installed on our private servers? So that is not possible right now. Front is a cloud-based SaaS platform. So everything that you do is in the cloud. If you have a new computer, you can log into Front and still have all your information there. We don't currently offer that private server functionality. All right. Can I replace my Gmail with Front? Yes. So our Gmail integration is a two-way sync with IMAP, and it allows you to actually really replace the Gmail usage entirely. On a personal note, I have not used my Gmail instance in about a year since I joined Front, and the reason for that is because of all the collaboration that I can have in my own individual inbox. That's something that I get with Front, and so I definitely like using Front instead of my Gmail. We have a two-way sync, so if I was to archive anything in Front, it would also get archived as well. So I guess also sort of in that same line, some people some people have questions about, can you then use Front as an extension within Gmail? And the answer to that is no. The idea of Front is that we sort of replace how your email systems are working. And so the data is coming into Front as well as it is coming into your Gmail instance. And because we have that two-way sync, you really can only leverage one of them. The idea of using one tangentially to the other is sort of defeating the purpose of actually having a centralized system. So the idea is to bring everything into Front so you can collaborate and have transparency and still have that privacy within the shared inboxes, or sorry, within the private inboxes if you require, but definitely should not be using it sort of in tandem with each other. Okay, so we have questions like, do we provide email subdomains like support@company.frontapp.com, or do we have to own our own domain? So Front sort of sits on top, Front sits on top of your domain. So we are a platform that you can plug your emails into. We don't offer subdomain or really putting any domain of our own on top of your emails. You can connect your email and your Google Groups, and it comes from your domain. Now, I think one other key difference is that everything in Front is when it comes to your customer's experience, it's just email. We don't add any Front front writing on top of it. It doesn't, like your emails don't say it's being sent from front. It just looks like an email, plain, simple, and personal. So I think that's something that is a pretty big distinction between some of our competitors, is that with Front, we focus on making it a collaborative place and letting your customers know you have a personal experience through emails that look like emails and not sort of like tickets. So that's something that if your company is really interested in, especially with like differentiating yourself against your own competitors, that's something that we definitely offer, and a lot of companies have sort of switched over because of that. All right. So does that mean no two-way sync exists for Twitter and Facebook? So with Twitter and Facebook, I guess like the way our Twitter and Facebook integrations work is if someone was to post something on your wall or was to direct message you, as I often do myself when I have issues with companies, those interactions do come into Front, and then you can from Front reply to those customers, and then that then goes into from your Twitter profile to the customer. So in terms of the two-way syncing, you have that real-time chat that you can have there, and with Twitter, it's not like you can really delete anyone's post from your wall anyway. So that sort of two-way sync doesn't exist on that front, but does exist with a two-way communication. All right, these are all fantastic questions. So this is we're actually coming up on the end of our webinar time here today. If you guys have any more questions, as I'm sure you guys have written down plenty of them, you can feel free to send them over to team@frontapp.com, and myself or someone from my team will get back to you. So I hope you learned something amazing about shared inboxes and are really excited to start implementing them for your team. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at team@frontapp.com. And other than that, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Super excited to have you. Thank you.